Hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of What's on My Desk. Today I picked out a trio of what I would call clunkers. They're also military themed. I brought the Panerai PAM 615 submersible in the 1950 case. I bought the Big Pilot Heritage watch in titanium, and I brought the Gramp, and this Gramp is just Gramp. It's in a category of its own. I'm going to start off by talking about this Panerai Submersible PAM 615. Right off the bat, this is not what the original submersible looked like because this is in a 1950 case. This is made out of titanium. It is a flyback chronograph, and I'm not going to tell you guys what a flyback chronograph is. You probably already know. Yeah, you're basically able to sort of reset and keep the chronograph going as it's coming around rather than going back to 12 and starting it again. Again, typical Panerai, nothing much different about this watch with the exception of the ceramic cover. Now this is just a ceramic cover that goes along the bezel. A single directional bezel, not sure why they didn't make it bidirectional. Your chronograph button's on the left, and this thing is waterproof up to 300 meters. Surprise, surprise. Oh, and another surprise, it's limited to 500 pieces. Wow, Panerai, another limited edition, bravo. I like the watch. What I love about the watch is that for a big clunker such as this, it wears really, really well, partly due to the design of the rib strap. So as the strap hugs your wrist, it becomes an extremely comfortable watch to wear. The downside to having big watches is most of the time they're not comfortable to wear, but by making this watch in titanium with the rib design of the rubber strap, it makes this watch very, very wearable and very, very comfortable on the wrist, surprisingly. Nevertheless, the side of the crown guard will still dig into your wrist, much like that of the crown of the APs, and it will still leave that mark on your wrist, but I personally don't mind it. I told you I have a permanent wrist there, and personally, I absolutely love this watch. Retail, a little hefty on the retail with this guy. $17,100 retail on this. If you go back to the original submersibles, they all retailed when they first came out under $10,000, making them relatively affordable. At $17,100, not so much. And as with any other new Panerai, right out the door, this thing was trying to trade at overlist. Some people were asking for overlist because they only made 500 pieces, but slowly but surely the prices have trickled down. In fact, I think we just ran a sale on this watch brand new at 30% off retail. The whole idea of limited editions, that has died for Panerai. Not just Panerai, a lot of brands. So it's just, people don't really care anymore. They hear the word limited edition, it goes in one ear, goes out the other. It doesn't have that luster as it used to have when this brand first started. Nevertheless, I still feel it's a bit too expensive for a sporty Panerai. I feel like Panerai can be successful so long as they be able to keep the selling price of their watches in that $10,000 mark and below. But what it has in an unfortunately high retail price, it makes up in the looks. Because indeed, this is a gorgeous looking watch. It's somewhat different from all the other Panerais, although it looks like every other Panerai, but it's still somewhat different. As I said, I love the strap, I love the striking blue hands on the dial, I love the ceramic bezel. Overall, A+ on this Panerai. I think the retail should have been slightly lower, however. Next, I want to talk about the Big Pilot Heritage. I mean, made as a heritage to the original Big Pilot. First of all, I love all of IWC Big Pilots, whether it was the very first edition they made in stainless steel, which they had issues with the movements and then they later on fixed it. The second improved IWC Big Pilot, the various gold editions that they made that were limited edition, the perpetuals, etc., etc. I love this watch for a bunch of reasons, actually. First of all, aesthetically. It's a heritage watch. Look at it. It looks like a vintage timepiece on your wrist. It looks like a part of history on your wrist. Love the open window in the back. The fact that they made 1,000 pieces, again, nobody really cares and neither do I. But overall, I've always loved the aesthetic look of the Big Pilot. I love the big clunky case at 48 millimeters. I love the big crown on the side. Although that big crown has caused issues in the past where the crown would just come off, which the construction in the big crown was just too heavy for the stem, and the stem would often pop off the wheel and you could no longer wind your watch. An easy fix, but nevertheless, it had issues with that in the past. And if you look at the big crown, think in terms of banging that against the wall, it can easily break off because it sort of tapers down towards the bottom. The luminous markers are unbelievable. The overall brushed titanium case is awesome. One of the things that they did with this watch is they made an anti-loss strap system. This is the one thing that I don't like about this IWC. At a first glance, you're thinking, why is the strap so long? Is it meant to be worn over a flight suit or a diver's suit? This is not a diver's watch. What's going on here? Well, this is their take on an anti-loss prevention. And what you can see, if I take this apart, as I pull this strap out, or the extra end of the strap out, you'll notice the anti-loss, I guess, comes in if somebody wants to either rip the watch off your wrist or if the watch unbuckles by accident. And if it does unbuckle by accident, obviously what happens is this happens, right? So the watch technically can't go anywhere. However, tell me who has a size wrist. This is big enough to fit around my neck. So I'm not so sure about this anti-loss prevention strap system. If you ask me, it makes it a pain in the ass to put this watch on. So nay on this. If I were to buy this watch, I would order a regular IWC Big Pilot strap and put it on that, and I would not bother with this theft system. It makes the strap much longer. I mean, you can wrap this watch around my wrist twice and I have a small wrist. So definitely a no on that strap, but everything else is an A+. What else is an A+? Is the fact that this watch retails for $13,100. Again, you get out there and you pick this watch up at 25 to 30% off retail. It's a hell of a deal on a Big Pilot. Even the older Big Pilots right now are still trading around that $10,000 mark. So, and what they have done is they lowered the retail price, making this watch a bit more accessible or quote unquote affordable to some. And I like that. I think it's a good move by IWC. You take a model which is arguably probably one of the most popular models that they have, the Big Pilot, and you make the retail at $13,100, making this watch a lot more accessible to most. They could have done like what everybody else does. Hey, here's a limited edition, price it up $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 more. The market probably would still withstand it, but right now, these companies that are not as popular as the rest are realizing that you need to get your watches out on people's wrists. People need to be buying those watches. So I'm fairly certain they quickly sold out of this 1,000-piece limited edition, and rightfully so. Beautiful watch at a great price, minus the crazy strap. Next, we're going to talk about this Gramp. And before I do that, I got to share a story with you guys real quick. And yes, this just happened. And this just happened a couple of weeks ago. Sitting at a restaurant with a buddy of mine and having a hard time reading the menu, doing this with my phone. He goes to me, he's like, Roman, you're over 40, right? He's like, yeah. He's like, have you considered buying readers? I'm like, what are you talking about? I have perfect vision. Get out of here. He's like, oh, really? He hands me over a pair of his readers. Lo and behold, I put them on. I look at my iPhone. I'm like, oh, my God, the iPhone never looked so good. I'm actually going to an optometrist to actually check my vision to see exactly what I need. But for now, I picked these up for 20 bucks at a pharmacy so I can actually see better. The beard, the glasses, I'm definitely getting old. In either case, I'm talking to you now about the Gramp Chrono Fighter. Right off the bat, you guys know this is a Chrono Fighter. Why? Because of the clunky crown guard, which is also the chronograph pusher. Now, this watch fits into the overall military theme. This is a Navy SEAL watch. Limited edition, obviously. Again, nobody really cares. Everybody does that stuff. So let's first talk about the watch itself and how it's constructed and how it's built. If you look at this watch, it has every probably popular element in the watch industry today in terms of finishes. Camouflage is really popular. They have the beautiful camouflage dial. They also have actually a strap that comes with this that matches the camouflage dial as well. You got a ceramic bezel. You got a PVD case, automatic open exhibition back. The trigger, as I call it, or the pusher for the chronograph, is actually made out of carbon. It has a carbon finish on the outside, and there's a metal plate on the inside for stability. Even the pusher for the chronograph, the other pusher for the chronograph is executed extremely well. Like just beautiful little touches that make this watch overall pleasing. Matching PVD buckle. Everything about this watch seems to take a piece of everything that's been popular over the last few years and they put it all in one watch at a bargain price of $8,050. Not a bad deal for a big clunky 48 millimeter watch. One of the things worth mentioning, obviously, is you'll notice that the crown seems to be on the wrong side of the watch. Well, there's a reason for that, because if you put this on the right side of the watch and you put this watch on your left wrist, as most people do, unless you're a lefty, this will dig into your wrist so bad you won't be able to wear it, so they put it on the opposite end. They actually also have lefty versions where the crown is actually on the right side as it should be, so that you wear it this way and it doesn't hurt. Otherwise, it's pretty painful to wear this watch. What does this watch sell for? It sells for brand new for less than half price. And you ask yourself, why? Why? Here's a company, Gramp, been around since 1695. Now, we all know that a lot of companies tend to pick up where some history left off, and there could have been a gap of 300 years in between. And that's the case with Gramp. I don't remember exactly when they came out on the market and started making modern watches, but I'm fairly certain there's at least a 250-year gap in between. And here's the kicker. Beautiful watch, beautiful finishes, nice automatic movement, priced really, really well at a low retail of $8,050. Becomes affordable, but yet it still discounts more than half price. Why? Well, Gramp suffered the fate of what a lot of companies suffered post that crash back in 2007, 2008. They kind of started to get hot around that time. They produced a lot of watches. They picked up a lot of authorized dealers. And then the crash happened and these things stopped selling. I mean, all luxury goods stopped selling. There was a time where, the market was pretty much dead for a good 6 months. And, we didn't have any business. We're barely surviving at the time. And then they were stuck. Do we close up shop and just forget all about it? But there was a lot of money invested. There were investors out there saying, hey, you got to keep pushing forward. Let's get our money out of this. So what did they start doing? Like every other newcomer on the block, they started pushing out closeouts. And closeouts by the thousands, whatever stock they had left over, they would sell it pennies on a dollar, and you'd see Gramps out there for 65 off, 75 off, sometimes even 80 off, depending on the models. And unfortunately, this beautiful watch, along with a good company behind it, suffered, and they're still suffering. They still can't get out of that mode, because once you get into doing closeouts, kind of like Roger W. did back in the day, it takes a long, long time to bring yourself up to the front of the market as a regular goods watch. And by I mean regular goods, something that won't discount more than 25, 30, 35%. And unfortunately today, you still find these things out there for less than half price. Once they regroup, I believe they will do well, because this is different. This is not like any other watch out there. These guys have a gimmick, much like Panerai had a gimmick with their diver watches, and much like IWC had a gimmick with their pilot watches, except there's a whole lot more history behind IWC. Not even as much as in Panerai, but IWC definitely has the history behind it. These guys, unfortunately, do not. Just by saying that, hey, we've been around for 1695 because they can trace their watchmakers back that far, doesn't automatically give them rapport in the market. They need to set themselves in the market. They need to sell for quite a while at regular discounts, as I call it, to get out of that quote-unquote closeout mode. And this company will be successful so long as they keep producing funky, cool watches such as this one. I hope you guys enjoyed this episode of What's on My Desk. Last but not least, I'm going to show you what's on my wrist. And today I'm wearing an oldie but a goodie, an RM11 in rose gold and titanium. I'm not going to make the statement of whether I like this RM11 versus the RM1103 with the funky edges. I mean, for me, the jury's still out on that. I'm not quite sure which one I like more. I love the original 11. I love the 1103. If you put a gun to my head, I would probably say that I'm still going to stick with the original. There's just something about that watch with all the things sticking out on the side that doesn't sit quite well with me yet. But you never know. Time will show. I may change my mind after all. For now, I'm going to rock the original RM11. Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Once again, if you like this video, make sure you hit that like button. If you're not subscribed to my channel, hit the subscribe button and hit that notifications bell too, so that you will know when my next video comes out. And I'll see you guys next time for more watch reviews and other videos.